Welcome back to Just Talking. We have a great guest today. We have a film composer, John Massari. John, nice to see you today. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, Jason, thank you for having me as your guest.
I do want to touch on one of the early films, which is absolutely phenomenal, is The Wizard of Speed and Time.
Oh, yes.
And Mike Jidlove was the director, and I believe it was a short at first, but let's hear how you got to know Mike Jidlove.
Well, everything has a story, you know. I was at UCLA, and I was also studying music privately. And the individual I was studying music privately from, his name was Dr. Albert Harris. And now Dr. Albert Harris, he taught a lot of composers. Among them was James Newton Howard. And my roommate, Don Davis, who did The Matrix. And so Dr. Albert Harris said, listen, I do me a favor. Could you sign up to a film music course being taught at UCLA? You used to go to UCLA, right? I go, yes. Go there, and my buddy's having a class, and you know, he needs like 2 more people to sign up so that he can have the class renewed for the next semester. And I go, sure, okay. And you might, who knows, it might be fun. You might learn something, you know. And so I sit down next to this kid, and we become friends. I didn't really think much of it. I mean, we become acquainted. And so a few classes into the course, there was a show and tell. They said, you know, if anyone has done music, if they want to do a show and tell, you play your tape. So I had done a piece of music for a movie of the week for Andrew Belling. If you don't know who Andrew Belling is, he did Wizards, Ralph Bakshi animated film. And anyways, he did a movie of the week, and he let me do one piece of music in there. It was not even a minute long. It was recorded in England. And so I played that tape to the class. And so the kid that sat next to me, I now know that he is helping a friend of his produce something for a Disney TV special. I go, oh, that's interesting. Would you like to do the music? He just wanted to. So I go, fine. Well, you want to meet the director. How does 11 o'clock sound for you? I go, that's fine. I'll see you tomorrow morning. And he says, no, 11 o'clock tonight. I go, really? Well, how come? Because that's when he wakes up. He wakes up around 10 o'clock. So we drive up to Mike Jitlove's house. I meet Mike Jitlove. Mike Jitlove just goes in. He heard this little piece of music that I did. And he went through his whole routine. He had a bunch of short films he did, and I just thought they were absolutely fantastic. And you have to figure, I'm watching them on a projector. He has a 16 millimeter projector in his home. And when you watch that type of animation on film being projected, the flickering of the light makes a huge impression on you. We did the music for that little short. You know, if you've seen the movie The Wizard of Speed and Time, it basically documents kind of like the things we went through. Not exactly. That's how I got to meet Mike Jitlove. And then a few years later, we started working on the movie. I think we started shooting it in 1983. And it wasn't done for final screening until 1988. It took forever to put everything together.
Come to me round to me, all of my friends, and dance to your wishes in the camera lens. Watch for the wizard in the robe of green, and I will help you find your dream.
Well, I'll tell you, that must have been some movie to do the soundtrack for, because there was so much stop motion animation and film back then. People don't realize they had to wait till the film's developed to then see it and then try to work with it. So how was that process? Was Mike involved, or did he just give you the film and says, okay, do it, in 3 months you come back, or how does that work?
The feature, it's like, it's like everything else in the media business. It's a collaborative effort. You know, he had ideas about like how the type of music he likes, and he would like sometimes, okay, in this scene, he would literally sing out. He would help set the pace and what he was looking for. You know, this part has got to be lyrical, and I would just like follow it and develop it.
He's a wizard of speed and time, stepping out by the Hollywood sign to sing the joy and love he's found and bring it all to movie town.
And there was a lot in there. Like you got, was it synthesizers you used? And
okay, for the actual movie, there was a good portion of the original music that I did was done on synthesizer for the big running sequence that was done with an orchestra, a pretty good size orchestra. And then, we had an extraordinarily limited budget, and there is, there were many arguments that went back and forth. I mean, I basically quoted a fee. This will take care of the whole movie, and I need this much time. And the producer wasn't having any of it. I go, well, okay, then we're going to have to use low-end library music. I mean, we had some kind of deal from the Capitol Records library. We couldn't get the newest stuff, but we got to use all the old stuff. And so I would say there's a good portion, maybe 40% of it is from library music. And our music editor, Steve Mann, also who's a composer, had some music he had done for a series of commercials years before that he had the rights to, and it just so happened to work really well. So we could, it's just like, everyone gets together and you do what you have to do to get it done, in some space. It had such a charm to it. I just wanted to be involved in it with it on as much of a significant level as I could.
And I think you were in the movie too, correct? You played one of the characters. How was that?
Under protest. I acted in the movie under protest. I will make that very clear. Mike says, well, you're going to play you in the movie. I go, well, let me see. I had all these shots, what do you call it? The headshots. These guys, first of all, they look really good and they know how to act, and Mike wasn't having it. He says, no, you have to be, my mom's in the movie. My brother's in the movie. My friend, oh gosh, I forgot his friend name, a high school friend of his was in the movie. So you've got to be in the movie. I go, oh gosh, can I change my name at least?
No, it was
so that's what that's all about.
It was phenomenal. And then when you talked about seeing movies on the big screen, how was then this scene? Because did this get a wide release or was it more of a
No, I don't think so. I think it got a very limited release. I think I had seen it in the movie theater only when we were mixing it. When it finally they had their big screening, I was in another state for a time, working on something else, and then there was they had a screening at they opened at a theater for a number of days to qualify it to be distributed to VHS and Laserdisc. I think the company at the time that was trying to distribute it says you have to at least show it in a theater for a certain number of days. And a certain number of people have to come see it, then we can put it, direct to video. That concept had not been embraced at that point. That business model of distribution was not yet a standard.
And then another great movie that has come along is that Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I think was it the same? It was like in late '80s too as well.
Yes.
How when those projects come to you, do you look at the script? Do you see the rough cut? How does that work when a movie comes at your desk?
Well, most things, even as today, most things come through referrals, and I must say it's the same process today. It's very similar, unless you're, like have almost like a marketable name, you're going to be asked to do an audition tape. They want us not a tape, an audition of a scene from the movie. They're just going to want to see that. And I know I can't mention names, but I know very well established composers that have not one series, but not two series, but 3 or 4, sometimes 7 series with Emmy nominations and Emmy awards that still audition. As a matter of fact, they will they will incur all the production fees to even hire an orchestra to do the scene as if they had the job. And sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't. You know, it's a very highly competitive business. Very competitive.
That's a good point you bring up, because why I have such high respect for film composers is that they bring the movie alive. I mean, this is going back to silent film, where it's like, it's silent, but you need that organ or accompanist to make it bounce off the screen. But do you feel a lot of pressure, since it's towards the end of the movie, that, okay, the score has to work, or maybe that's what, like you're saying, that's where the auditioning comes into play?
Yeah, well, but you're right. It's like the film is done. There's not much left to do. In some cases, there's not much money left.
Right.
I'm sorry, we spent all our money on that scene.
Right.
That's why you can't hire an orchestra, because we did that big explosion. Mm-hmm. But that's just the nature of the business. You have to have a thick skin, because most people in the media industry, not all of them understand music. It's very subjective, and often, there are some directors and producers that have a keen sense of what they're looking for, and they can describe what they need. In other words, they're not going to play you records or recordings or other scores. They'll like describe what they want. That's the best scenario, where you're given an emotion and a direction.
Let's talk about also when soundtracks get released. Are you a part of that at all, or is that more of the studio and the company, and how does that work?
Well, I think when the volume of films started to rise greatly, like starting in the late 70s, and especially in the 80s, with the advent of alternative media other than watching something on television or going to a movie theater. Now you can rent something. There's just more product on the market. The expense of marketing going through and doing a soundtrack just plummeted, and unless you're working on a project that has something of a following, it's really hard to get distribution. I mean, for my movie Killer Clowns from Outer Space, there was a record company that I think they made 1,000 copies of the original episode, of the original synth score, and then a few years ago, I produced the reimagined score with an orchestra that was picked up by Varese Sarabande, and I have friends that they basically release their own albums, because they have all the masters. They know how to put it together. They have a system in line of marketing, and they have a fan base, so they could just like sell directly to their fans. So if they sell 200 copies, that's really good. And if they sell 2,000 copies, that's really good. Or if they get 2,000 downloads,
I think, was it on your website or somewhere I looked at The Wizard of Speed and Time might have a soundtrack, or
it does have a soundtrack, and it's done on vinyl.
Wow.
And if you want one, it's available.
All right.
We had a really, there's a place out here that they mastered it and pressed it. I found the original tracks and maybe touched them up a bit. Didn't do too much to them at all. It kept true to the original. And there's a place out here that they just do incredible pressings. The vinyl is in green, if you can imagine that.
Very cool. Great.
And it features most of the original music, including my friend Steve. He had some music in there that he managed to find his, because in the movie was an old transfer of his music. He was able to find the original masters that we transferred over to high definition audio, And so that was a lot of fun. So it's a very high fidelity stereophonic album.
And as for you, any upcoming projects or that we should know about that you?
Well, I did. Let me see. I have 3 movies out. They're on. I think they're all on Amazon. The movie I did is called Cruel Hearts, and it's what I call deep synthesizer, deep synth score, very thick, foreboding sounding score. It was a lot of fun to work on. Director was Paul Osborne, and he's quite a brilliant guy. The other one is directed um, by one of the pals, Josh Becker. He's from that filmmaking community of Sam Raimi, and Josh Becker called me just as they had finished the movie, and he says, everyone says I got to use you, and I don't know why, because you're the Killer Clown guy. And I go, well, the Killer Clowns guy used to do Little House on the Prairie, and that's kind of like a Western. He goes, perfect, because there's aspects of Little House on the Prairie in this movie. So that's called Warpath, and that's a straight up Western. I have another it's not for everyone. This movie that I'm going to mention to you now is not for everyone. It's called Cherokee Creek. It's a real drive-in horror movie about Bigfoot. So I got that. And of course, Wizard of Speed and Time, I'm trying to get Mike to at least restore his short films and stream them somehow to share that with the world, because I think the world really is due for all the color and imagination. Some of his short films are just so brilliant. The only problem with him is that they're short.
Yeah. But
it'd be great if they were longer.
It took a long time. Now, after the Wizard of Speed and Time, did you guys talk about collaborating on future projects, or did it kind of?
Well, Mike is a bit is a very sensitive, reclusive fellow. For a number of years, he was caring for his mother that had a stroke, and that took a lot out of him. And I think he's still kind of recovering from all those years. I remember taking care of my grandmother for several months, and I just can't imagine taking care of her for many years. I think it was more than 8 years that he had to, like, day-to-day care for her himself because he wanted to.
Yeah.
So it was a lot for him to deal with this vinyl release, because there were certain things that I wanted his okay on. I didn't just want to just do it. I wanted him to be part of it. If you do get the vinyl album, there's a picture of myself and Mike and Steve on the back. And but yes, I'm trying to, and there's people in the special effects community that would gladly help him at least archive what he already has in digital at the stage that it is now, to at least restore it so the world can appreciate what you started with, and I don't think he's fully grasped the fact of how precious people revere his work. That I can't tell you how many people I lost track a long time ago. All the people says, I am in the media business and I do commercials now, because I remember Mike came to our school and did a quick talk with his projector, and I've never looked back. I've always wanted to do something fascinating with visual effects. So is there a possibility? Yeah, I think bit by bit, I've been telling the fan base that contact me and ask me if the Wizard of Speed and Time feature film will ever be. And I said, well, Mike has a website with a very public, open information about how to contact him. You should think of asking him yourself.
For the LP, or where can people go to get it? Do you have a website that people?
Well, the LP is simply, you go to eBay.
Okay.
And you type in the Wizard of Speed and Time on vinyl, and you'll get it.
Okay.
The seller name is Wosat Man, which is Wizard of Speed and Time Man. So that's where the album can be purchased.
And for your work, do you have a website that people can look at?
My work you can see on SoundCloud and YouTube.
All right. Well, John, may I say it's just been a pleasure talking to you. You just do phenomenal work all across
Thank you,
the
Jason.
board. Just absolutely terrific. And again, we appreciate you working on the Wizard of Speed and Time and all your other films, all other films as well. So thank you so much for talking with us tonight.
Thank you very much. And to everyone out there that appreciates the Wizard of Speed and Time and Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because without your dedication and appreciation for our work, no one would know about it.
On that note, thank you so much, John. We appreciate it.
You take care.
And 1, 2, 3.
We're here to cheer